I would like to welcome on stage the next speaker who has been an MC in the past for the same event. So he is the OG React India MC. So welcoming the next speaker on stage, Ankeet Maini, who's going to talk about the story of the two World Cups.
Cool. So I'm Ankit Maini, and this talk is about how we scaled Hotstar to serve two World Cups. The story of two World Cups. I hope my ticker works. But before that story, who are we actually? Can anybody guess who are we? So we are the only app in the world to have set world records in making these many people. I mean, so I meant set world records in streaming and storytelling, folks, not the other thing that you are thinking right now. But today it's time for another story. The one that is in making since 2021, when we started doing a big rewrite of our entire architecture backend and front end. And the one that's never been streamed, and it won't also. So I can't imagine how lucky you are. I mean, clap for yourselves. So flashback will take you back in time, January 2023. The world was celebrating New Year's, while people at Hotstar were busy running some numbers, obviously, to find out how many people would come to watch the World Cup. And before we could even finish our calculations or watch this epic video, shout out if you have watched this video. Okay. I can see that you're shouting internally in your minds, so that's okay. Something changed so drastically that our guts collectively did 12 somersaults. And usually after 3 or 4, you throw up. So we threw up and some more. Because till that day, streaming cricket was subscriber only. So you had to actually buy a subscription on our platform to watch cricket. But then leadership decided. Any guesses what did they decide? Yes, World Cup would be free on mobile. And that's where more than 80% of our traffic comes from. What could go wrong? Absolutely everything. But this is fine, this is fine. 50 million was our projection. And for those of you who do not know how many zeros are in 50 million, it's 5 crores. So there are 5 crore zeros, but it's just literal value 5 crores. So 50 million was our projection, which was also wrong, by the way. So we couldn't even calculate it correctly. And we had to build for it from scratch. And during that time, wherever you went in the office, whichever room you were in, people were only talking about 2 things: CPU cores, CDN bandwidth. No matter which Zoom call you joined, people were talking about CPU cores and CDN bandwidth. No matter if you went to washroom, people were still talking about CPU cores and CDN bandwidth. I think this was funny in my head, but I'll skip over. So our earlier estimates said that we were overshooting our available cores by, any guesses how much we were overshooting by? So 20%. The gentleman says 20%. He's very optimistic. Anybody else? 5x. Okay. 30%. So we were only overshooting by 70% only. I mean, even after full optimization. And you can imagine the kind of panic that would have set in across teams at Hotstar. And what do you do after you are in panic? You ask for help, right? You organize more meetings. No, you should come to Hotstar. So we all lined up outside the office of Gaurav Kamboj, the speaker of the original video that I showed in previous slides, who's the resident-in-chief of all cores and infrastructure at Hotstar. And as fate would have it, he did not come outside the office the entire day. And he was busy calling AWS. And AWS was not even picking, because they said that we can't even build this infrastructure that you are demanding in whatever time frame that you're looking for. And our backs were truly against the wall. And we were actually crying. You can't see the tears, but I was crying internally. And during that point, I started doing a different calculation. I forgot about CPU cores. I started calculating how much time do I have to live, right? And you can see that's me in the picture. Most of you will say AI, but no. So we were, am I in the way of the slides? You're able to see. OK. So we were 6 months away from this event called 2023 World Cup. It started in October 2023. And 3 months, if you understand, there are code freezes, there's app adoption cycles, there's testing, because you can't just write code and push it all out. So we had only 3 months to do whatever we could. And at this point, as a leader, I took a leave. Folks, please, to think and strategize, come on. OK? So we sat down with our teams thinking, what would millions of free users, I mean, they were not free, they were just free users. I hope they were busy in their lives. What would they do? So they would open app, maybe for the first time, many for the first time, hit homepage, and then we would have to compute homepage response. Then they would click cricket match on the top banner that shows that, hey, which match is right now going on. And they would go to watch page again. And the server will have to compute watch page. And this would be done by every single user over and over again till hundreds of millions of users come on to watch the Cricket World Cup. So we were thinking, how could we do less and save on our computations, right? And the technique to do less and save is like lazy, being lazy, which in computer science parlance is called caching, right? And why weren't we already doing it? We were asking ourselves. Because of that one personalization product manager. I mean, only intelligent people would get this meme. And super intelligent will click a picture and post it on Twitter. So yeah, nobody got this joke. So engineering team could finish all of their resilience testing. They would be ready for the scale. But personalization is that one arrow that fails even the biggest tech giants when you are in such hot spot tournaments. Like, you cannot have personalization at scale. And we will see how and why. So we knew, we were thinking in terms of caching, that we will cache stuff. And when the word spread out, so when product managers knew that what engineering teams are planning to do, reports started coming in that personalization product manager went on an indefinite hunger strike. He would not eat or drink anything. And he had these two demands. Do not remove continue watching from the home page. So continue watching is a tray wherein you, most of you, when you watch something, it gets stored there, and you use that continue watching tray. Was I audible? So you use that continue watching tray to resume that content. And do not serve the same home page to everybody. Because what gentleman here is watching might be very classy or cringe, and it might not be the same that you would like. And with hundreds of millions of users, we just cannot have one page for everybody. So what would we do? If we were to do that, if we were to give different homepage to everybody, we would be having a compute explosion. So imagine servers working for each and every one of you at that critical time when hundreds of millions of users are coming in and it is working, it is overworking to find out what is the content that you would like. Instead of doing all of that, we thought, why not divide all of our users into certain groups, or in cool lingo, cohorts, right? So I could say this group of people who's on my this side, because I don't know whether this is right or left, but this side people, they are entertainment only users. This side is sports only users. And then we mapped every single user on our app into some of these groups. And so now we were working with these big groups. So instead of working for each individual user, we were thinking in terms of groups, right? And this seems a better way to operate, right? We are doing less now. So a strategy was in place. So we will still do caching, but we will not do for everybody, but we will cache it for a cohort. So instead of saving the same response for all of our users, we will have some cohorts which are lesser than our hundreds of millions of users. So we knew our destination, Hotstar in April, and we knew that I had to go to world wherein caching, so I opened Google Maps, but even Google Maps could not take us there. So this was a joke, friends. I did not put it really. So now in this journey, we will see how we navigated from a very fuzzy, very ambiguous problem statement to the final state, and let's begin. So pit stop 1. Before I tell you how we optimized, it's important that you understand how it works today. So we'll take a 30 seconds refresher on how Hotstar actually works. So you have this Hotstar app, and it says, whenever you open the app, it says, please give me homepage. It hits a CDN, which is Akamai, and this CDN sends a request to our origin server, which builds your homepage and gives it back. So this is the bigger picture. Now let's go one step deeper. This is the page that you actually get, and all of these that you see on your page are actually widgets. So a page is comprised of multiple widgets. So you see the top widget, that's called a masthead. Then you have continue watching, which the product manager wouldn't let us remove. And there are n number of widgets. So the app says, please give me the homepage. The request goes into our servers. There is this gateway, which we will ignore it for a moment, like my wife ignores me. So and then we would go to page compositor. Page compositor is nothing but our orchestration layer, which composes your page with these widgets. So your home page could have 10 widgets, and which I've shown in the picture. And each widget is a parallel call so that we give you the home page as fast as we could. Now, to build out each of these widgets in parallel, computer has to do some work. And that is shown by those exercise emojis. I felt very creative after doing this. So now you know how Hotstar pages are built. They are built of widgets. And now we started figuring out which widgets we could save as is and which we can't. Of course, we couldn't save the personalized widgets. So for example, in this, I have replaced on the left-hand side, if you see my left-hand side, there are these emojis wherein there is only 2 widgets where you have exercise emojis built in. Those are your personalized widgets that we can't save. The rest of the widgets, we could potentially save it because they are same for all users. Let's say top 10 releases in India. Now, top 10 releases in India would be same for all of you, right? So now we knew that we could tag individual widgets which can be saved, which cannot be. So our problem becomes a little bit simpler. So what did we do? We grouped all of those widgets into static versus dynamic widgets. So static widgets you could potentially save. Dynamic widgets you cannot, and you have to run your servers to compute all of this, right? So these widgets are now grouped into these 2 big groups. Team, everybody with me so far? You can clap if you are with me. Okay. I mean, people on YouTube, please know that these people are loving my talk. So then we changed our app architecture, app and server architecture. And I don't know why we named this track as deferred widgets, because they are static and dynamic widgets, but deferred, we somehow came up with this name. So the app, instead of making one homepage call, the app made two homepage calls. It said, give me static widgets, the first arrow. Is there a pointer I can use? I can't. OK. So give me static widgets. And the server right now gave it just static widgets. There is no caching right now. This is the current architecture. Server computes static widgets separately. Server computes dynamic widgets separately. And the app stitches all of these widgets together and gives you the home page. So after doing all of this, you as a user would say, hey, what did Hotstar ship? Nothing. I don't see a difference in my UX. But behind the scenes, the entire architecture was changed overnight. After this, we were already celebrating within ourselves. Still, we ran a game day test. We started figuring out, did we actually save something? Did our compute actually go down? And what we realized was that each of these widgets needed some common data. Like every widget would want to know, what is the preferred language of this user? And there could be different languages. Like my app could be in a different language, whereas I would want to see my content in a different language. So which language does the user prefer? Now, this is something that is stored by a language service. Second, am I part of some AB group? What is my AB group? Similarly, there could be some common ads data that, hey, what kinds of ads do I like to watch? What kind of ads should be shown to this user, right? So we were figuring out that each of these widgets made calls to these servers on every compute. So even if we would have saved some of these widgets, but at the entry, all of them will call these things, and they became the new hotspots. So we thought, can we do less? Can we be lazy? So instead of each of these widgets calling them, so if there are 10 widgets and these servers are getting 10 calls, can we call them only once? Can we optimize our call graphs? So remember this gateway that we ignored? So gateway was a central thing, and we felt that this is a nice thing that we could put this logic in, that, hey, gateway calls those downstream services, creates the response, and passes along. So now we are zooming into the gateway. And within gateway, there is this auth service that does the authentication. And then we built an enricher. So this enricher did not do anything except it fetched the common data, like AB, cohort, language preference vector, what is the language of the user, ad segments, and created a unified data structure called passport. It's just like when you go to travel, you need a passport. We give passport to each request, right? So a request needs a passport. It's its ticket to go to the downstream servers. I just go back so that you understand. So this is the gateway. Instead of individual widgets calling all of those services, we called gateway. And gateway sent this passport along with every request. We had a 10x improvement. But gateway still fetched on every app open. So not even this optimization could last an India Park game. And nobody would want to miss out on India Park game because we were not able to fetch some common data, right? So we thought, whatever we have saved on the server by creating a passport, can we not send this passport down to the client as well? So the passport that we are sending towards the downstreams on my left, we saved the same thing on the client, and we sent the same thing back on the client. Of course, like removing sensitive data and all of that, so don't think that we are sending sensitive data. And the clients saved it in their native storage. And for every outgoing service, the clients would send this passport along. So if I have the passport, I would send it along. And we call this as client persistent store. because client persisted that data. So every time an outgoing request goes, I just blindly attach this persistent data with every request. And what is the ROI for this client persistent store? What do you think is the ROI? So we first save the cost on the server because every widget, so if there are 10 widgets, they were calling it 10 times. So we created one passport, 10 calls became one call. And that one call also became 0 because client already had that data. And server could decide whether this is stale, whether this is fresh. So all of that logic could be on the server side, and client could just very plainly pass it along whatever it has. With me, everyone, so far? So, okay. Excellent. People know the drill here. Very nice. Okay, so we have seen so many slides, but we are still nowhere close to caching because we haven't done caching right now. Right now, all we have are the building blocks to do caching. And now we'll put everything together. What does it even mean to cache something? Can somebody tell me what do you mean by caching? Okay. Reusing the data. The gentleman at the front is very smart, so please meet him afterwards. So server, when you make a request, server calculates a response for your request, right? You asked me homepage, I compute my homepage response. And then the server adds a header called cache control. This is the only way to cache, right? So you add a header called cache control, max age with some number, like the amount of time that you want this response to be valid. It could be 10 seconds, it could be 5 seconds, it could be 1 year. And since all of you are very front-end heavy background, you usually cache your JS assets, you cache it indefinitely, but the concept is same. So even for APIs, the concept is almost the same. So now there has to be a cache key. So let's say I'm asking for v1 home and my cohort is 123. Server works to get the data, adds that, hey, this response is valid for 10 seconds, and sends it out. What happens the next time? Next time, if I make the same call, the server could just keep on sleeping and send out the data that it previously calculated. Correct? With me so far? This is how caching works. Okay? This is how basic caching works. Now, caching is a double-edged sword. Do you know why? Can anybody take a wild guess why caching is a double-edged sword? Somebody says revalidating. Anybody else? Be louder. Staleness. What else? Stale is still okay. I eat stale food all the time. Memory low. Cache becoming invalid, that is stale. Okay, so you folks are still missing the point, and you should thank that I'm here. Sorry, I get carried away. Imagine opening Hotstar and seeing my account on your phone. I mean, I know you would be lucky, but no, that's not how it works. This would be a truly, truly nightmare privacy Sev 1 issue. Companies could go totally down. You could go out of business because there is no privacy. So now, do you get the gravity? I mean, stale and all is okay, but what if your responses, your profiles are showing up on somebody else's phone? In case of e-commerce, you could steal their credit cards. You could steal their, you could see their order history. On Hotstar, you could see what I have watched. You could corrupt my profile. You could watch some stuff that I haven't watched, and I would be wondering who watched this? Why is it showing on my continue watching? So folks, when you think of caching, the biggest hurdle is privacy nightmare, right? With me so far? Okay, excellent, excellent. I love you folks. Now you are thinking, how could this even happen? I was only thinking about stale cache issues, eviction, and blah, blah, blah. Remember that your response is your personal response. So whatever is the response for this gentleman would not be your response because you have your own response. Assume that the server, when it is computing your response, saves your response for everybody else to use, correct? Because caching means that I will compute once, store it, and send it for everybody else. What if my token was also there, my token could get stolen, my data could get shown to everybody else, right? So this is a recipe for disaster. And below is my photo, of course. So what did we do? So do it safely. So we obviously want to do caching, but how can we do it safely? So in the previous diagrams, you would see that there was one CDN endpoint, apix.hotstar.com. What we did was we added another endpoint, hf.apix.hotstar.com. Now hf was high frequency because cached paths we were expecting like a lot of cache hits, and so that is high frequency. And only this endpoint will have caching enabled, not this. So this was for static widgets, this was for dynamic widgets. With me so far? So the above endpoint would serve you static widgets, the below endpoint would serve you dynamic widgets. So we introduced hf.apix.hotstar.com. And what special did we do here? Why was it? I will just take one step back. The special thing that we did here, which is different from apix.hotstar.com, was that at the outset, when you made the request, we stripped all personal data belonging to you, so that no personal data, no user tokens could be used by servers to compute the data. So let's say if I'm asking, give me my homepage response, give me my static widgets, server will not have access to my token. Since it doesn't have access to my token, it cannot personalize. So it will be forced to give you some data which is not personalized, right? Single endpoint for cached resources, and we use that endpoint to serve config, homepage, watch page, commentary. And if you have opened Hotstar, you would see that there is a commentary feed also going there. So all of those APIs were served via this new path. But now you would ask me that, hey, how does the app know this new hf.apix.hotstar.com? Because it only knew apix.hotstar.com. How did you do it? Did you hard code? And if you hard coded, how do you even switch it on at runtime? So nobody laughed at this meme, but okay. Why hard coding is a sin, right? Why we cannot hard code? Caching is a last resort kind of thing. On normal days, when the traffic is manageable, we want to serve all of you your personalized feeds, right? We would want to load your personalized feed, even your first fold. But only on match days, we would want to serve you widgets that are semi-personalized, like belonging to your cohort. So if we would have hard-coded, the app would always go to static. For static widgets, it will go to different CDN, and for dynamic, different CDN. We couldn't switch on off from server side because now client is making this decision. It is making those two calls. I can't stop on the client what's happening on the client. And cohorts change dynamically. Today, you are watching a lot of Anupama, so you are a general entertainment content user. Tomorrow, you're watching a lot of sports content, so you are a sports user. Third day, you're watching lots of Hotstar specials. And on next day, you're watching a lot of Game of Thrones. So your cohort is changing. Your taste is changing. I cannot save your taste as a one-time value. So this needs to be updated regularly. So this server needs to dictate what is your cohort. It cannot come from the client. So these were all of the reasons. I hope they are making sense to all of you. So we wanted to do this dynamically. So remember, we had this passport kind of thing where we saved common data. What if we could add another data here inside the enricher box and called it routing table? And what would routing table look like? Because anything you add here would be saved to the client automatically. I do not have to write a single line of code to access it on the clients, right? So we are using the platform. We are not building anything new. And this is the beauty that I want to showcase to you that how are we using existing levers to power a new use case altogether. So we added a new routing table here in this enricher. So this is the same enricher box. I will just go one step back. So this, now we will see the zoomed in view of this enricher. And see, there is a routing table. Now routing table is a data value, which is a list which we will see now. And what it does is every time the app made any call outside, so if the app is asking for anything, we would use this routing table, we would use this config to see where do we want to make this call, right? Whether the call needs to go to HF APIX, whether the call needs to go to APIX, and how does routing config actually look like? So you can see that this is a list of, this is one array, this is one object. It has an endpoint. So every time the app made some call, we check whether this is matching this regex. Is this a dynamic call? Is this whatever call? And we say replace it with. Like you could even replace the URL totally at runtime. You could add some query params. And you remember I said that you can cache for a key. This is your actual key. So we don't use URL as a key because your key is determined by like, are you a subscribed user? What kind of cohort you are? So we want to abstract all of this. So this is driven by server. So this is the key that client adds. And then this is the domain. So now you can see the power that client, even though it is hard-coded to make some calls, we could dynamically change it from the server by sending this to the client. OK? And with this, we entered into a new paradigm. So you all have heard about server-driven UI frameworks, right? Server-driven. So at Hotstar, I would like to believe that we invented server-guided UI. Server is not telling you exactly. Server is hinting you. So the power is also with clients, but without hard coding, and it could be changed dynamically. OK? We got automatic switching, no hard-coded domains, infinite extensibility, and server-driven cache eviction lever. So tomorrow, your cohort changed. I could just send a new routing config with a different value of this UQID, right? Epic recap, because yeah, this was epic. So we started by figuring out how to do less. So from our journey, we were figuring out how to do less. So we first split our widgets into static and dynamic groups. We created passport on the server. We stored it on the client, called it persistent store. We cached the smart way with a new CDN entry so that none of your responses could get cached the wrong way, and routing table for effortless switching. So with this, I would want to thank you and the Hotstar team, because I'm speaking on their behalf. This wouldn't have been possible without them. To every team member at Hotstar who moved mountains in no time. And to accomplish all of this without our esteemed users knowing what changed beneath their floors was a mammoth engineering product effort. And with this, we delivered not just one, but 2 World Cups. So the World Cup in 2023, which of course we did not win, and the World Cup in 2024, which we did win. And with that, making this app best in class. And this is a humble footnote. This entire caching architecture design has since been recognized with a patent. So thank you, everyone. And I stand here with a lot of gratitude. I'm so grateful to be working at a place. And we have so much pride that we get to work on such exciting things to showcase you, not just from Rohit and Kohli to Jemima, who played an astonishing innings yesterday and was a great match for the women's team. And the women's team did something that the Indian men's team couldn't do it in 19th November. So shout out to our women's team. And we are also hiring across the board, so please go and check the careers page. And with this, I would end my talk. And please catch me out and ask any doubts you have or click pictures with me. My target criteria is 2 for this talk to be successful. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening again.
React India.